Okay, I am defense attorney. My name is Mr. Even, E-V-E-N.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm also for defense, Mr. Steelberg, S-T-E-E-L-B-E-R-G.
I am the witness.
I'm for the plaintiff, Mr. Rosenthal, R-O-S-E-N-T-H-A-L.
Okay, we are starting on line 18. Margin, Mr. Even. And then we're going into question by Mr. Even, defense attorney. Okay, ready? Can we stipulate among the parties here, and this is all the parties involved, that this deposition may be continued before a commissioner?
So stipulated.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't want to stipulate for that.
Ask the question and cite the witness. That's the only way to do it.
Well, for the record,
Let me say for the record too, I respect Ted's decision and we each have our individual positions. But I'm not sure that, from what Ted has told me before, that he'd even permit his client to answer in front of a commissioner. It may be that it's going to have to go up, from what you told me, this matter, in addition to any further examination. You've already told that to me, and I think
I don't know what you're saying. I don't recall any conversation we had as to that effect.
you just said, off the record, you didn't want anybody else examining the report and you tried to prevent it by writ or something.
That had to do with engineers going through tests about damage to the evidence. That's all I was talking about.
Off the record.
let's go off the record. Robin, could you show us generally how you picked the bottle of Plumber Saver up off the shelf and how the accident happened? And when you do it, could you please stand next to the table where the bottle is on right now?
Well, I object to the form of that question. This is not a full bottle, and there's no foundation as to height. And your question, by the form of it, did leave that situation sort of wide open so that the witness would be bound by some exact things that she could not be compelled to be bound to. What I'm speaking about is the lack of foundation with reference to height of the table, lack of foundation as to the fact that this bottle is not full, and those things, and if your question included some preamble of the kind of thing so as to leave the thing wide open in some areas, why, I would not object to the question.
Randy, could I try? Robin, remember we met a few minutes ago before lunch. My name is Ken Steelberg. Have you ever seen that bottle before?
Yes.
What bottle is that?
Plumber Saver.
Does that look like the bottle that was involved in the accident?
Yes.
Okay, would you stand up next to the table, Robin?
Uh-huh.
Alright, now this isn't the supermarket where this accident happened, and this isn't a grocery shop. You understand that, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, and you see that bottle right there does not have a cap on it. You see that?
Yeah.
You also see there's nothing in that bottle, don't you?
Yes.
Alright, all we're interested in doing is trying to find out how it is you picked up the bottle and how the accident happened. Now we know that everything isn't exactly the same in the sense that this isn't the supermarket, this isn't a supermarket shelf. You're a little bit taller today than you were a year and a half ago, and that bottle doesn't have anything in it. So what we're interested in is seeing how it is that you picked the bottle up and handed it to your mother and where you had the bottle when the liquid jumped out of it. Robin, could you show us how you picked the bottle up and how the accident happened?
Okay.
Alright, now simply let the record show she has gripped the bottle by the handle in her right hand, and it's about, how far would you say from her chest?
Well, she said she picked it up and handed it at the same time. She didn't hold it someplace.
Okay,
She didn't hold it, so ask her if she did.
we're getting there now. We haven't taken any measurements or anything. After you picked up the bottle off the shelf, Robin, did you hand it directly to your mother? Did you hold it and look at it? What did you do? Where was your mother standing, Robin? Was she over on this side of you, to your right, or where was she?
She was this way.
Was she standing about where I was, or can you remember at all?
Can't remember.
Was she standing close enough for you to reach out and hand it to her if you wanted to hand it to her?
Don't remember.
Did she have a grocery cart by her?
Yes.
Was the grocery cart on this side of your mother, on the right side, or was it in front of her, in back of her? Where was it? Do you remember?
No.
Okay, do you remember which way your mother was facing? Was she facing towards the shelf like this? If you don't remember, just say you don't remember.
I don't remember.
Alright, now after you picked the bottle up off the shelf, what did you do with it?
I started to hand it to my mother.
You started to hand it over to your right, over towards where I'm standing now?
Yes.
Okay, put the bottle back down on the table. Now, show us how you picked the bottle up and what you did with it as soon as you picked up the bottle.
I didn't have time to do nothing with it.
I beg your pardon, sweetheart, what did you say? You didn't have time to?
I didn't have time because as soon as I picked it up, the stuff came out.
Okay, I'm through. Go ahead, Randy.
Robin, when you picked up the bottle, did you take it from the shelf and pull it closer to you, or did you pull it off to the side somewhere?
I didn't pull it off to the side.
Which side did you pull it off to?
It was right in front of me.
Was the bottle right in front of you at the time the stuff came out?
I don't remember.
How did the stuff come out? Can you describe for me what happened?
She already did that. Don't answer that again. She already described that.
At the time the stuff came out, was the cap on the bottle?
Yes.
Did you see if the cap was loose or tight?
I didn't see if the cap was loose or tight.
At the time that the stuff came out, could you see the cap?
No,
Where were you looking at the time?
I couldn't see nothing but this stuff. This stuff came out, this ugly stuff.
What color was the stuff?
I don't know.
Did you see the stuff actually come out of the bottle?
That's already been answered. She said that she did and that it jumped out.
Well, did you see it by looking straight at it, or did you see it out of the corner of your eye?
I don't remember that.
Were you facing straight at the bottle at the time the stuff came out?
Yes.
At the time the stuff came out of the bottle, was the bottle moving or was it still in one place?
I don't remember that either.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I don't remember that either.
Miss Reporter, did you get the comment?
At the time that the stuff came out of the bottle, was the bottle tilted towards you or away from you in some direction?
What?
Okay. At the time that the stuff came out of the bottle, was it tilted towards you or away from you or in some other direction?
It was like this.
It was like straight up and down.
Yeah.
May the record reflect she held the bottle straight up and down.
When the stuff came out of the bottle, did it go straight up from the bottle or did it come out toward you?
I don't remember.
Did the stuff actually go into your nose?
Yes.
Do you recall ever having any burns on the outside of your nose?
Before this happened?
No, after it happened.
I don't remember.
Did the stuff go into both of your nostrils or just one?
One.
Which one was that?
This one.
Your right nostril?
Uh-huh.
Did any get between your nose and your lip? Your upper lip?
What?
Did any of the liquid land between your nose and above your lip?
I don't remember.
Did you get any anywhere else on your face?
What?
Okay. Did any of the liquid that jumped out land anywhere else on your face besides your mouth and your nose?
Don't remember that either.
At the time that the stuff came out of the bottle, were you actually handing it to your mother at the time?
That's been answered. Don't answer it again.
Did you plan on actually putting the bottle in the basket or on actually giving it to your mother?
Giving it to my mother.
What did you want her to do with it?
See if it was something to clean off my pants.
Did you look at the label before you picked it up off the shelf?
No.
What was it about the bottle that made you think it would help clean up your pants?
I don't know.
Before this happened, had you picked up anything else on the shelves to see if they would be good for cleaning up your pants?
No.
Does the table that's in front of you, the table right here that you're on, does that seem to be about the same height as the shelf that you took the bottle from, or is it different?
I don't remember.
You want to take a break for a minute?
Yes.
Do you mind if I ask you a few more questions, Robin?
No.
It won't take too long. You picked this bottle up and the liquid jumped out and it went in your right nostril. Is that right?
Yeah.
This side of your nose, did any go in your mouth?
Yes.
And what happened when that happened? Did you drop the bottle on the floor?
I don't know.
Did your mother take it from your hand or do you remember?
Don't remember.
Do you remember seeing a little cap that was on the bottle? What happened to the cap?
Don't know what happened to the cap.
Okay, did any hit the floor of the supermarket?
What?
Did you see whether any spilled on the floor of the supermarket?
No.
Okay. Did your mother say anything at that time?
I don't remember.
Did you say anything to your mother, or did you just, was it painful to you, Robin?
No.
You see this label on the bottle, Robin?
Yeah.
Do you know what that says as you sit here today?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Plumber saver.
Take your hand down a little bit, Robin. I can't hear what you're saying. What does it say?
Plumber saver.
Do you see what it says underneath Plumber Saver?
No.
Could you read what that said on the label the day that it jumped into your mouth?
No.
She already answered that.
I'm sorry, Ted, I didn't recall.
He asked for that question.
Alright, well from there it goes further on. I don't have anything else in that particular area.
Robin, as you were standing in front of the shelf, did you have to reach up for it? Did you have to bend down for it? Did you pick it up straight?
I don't know.
No, she's already answered that.
I don't remember.
Okay. When you picked it off the shelf, was there a cap on?
Yes.
Did you ever touch the cap?
No.
When you took the container off the shelf, did you hit it against something before it spilled out?
No.
You didn't hit the shelf and you didn't hit a shopping cart or anything?
No.
Okay. Did you move it at all from the vertical? Did you tilt it?
No.
And when it spilled, it was below your face, was it?
I don't know.
But you never touched the cap?
No.
Did you ever touch it with your other hand or just with your right hand
Wait a minute.
before the thing spilled out?
She said she never touched it. She wasn't talking about either. You mean touched what?
The container with the left hand before it spilled out.
Oh, the container?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't say that, sir. Ask the question again.
You picked the container off the shelf with your right hand, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever touch it with your left hand?
No.
And you were holding it all the time by the handle here, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you squeeze the container?
No.
When you first picked up the container, was it hot?
I don't remember.
When you took it off the shelf, did you turn around suddenly?
No.
You were standing still, you picked it off, and it spilled right in front of you, is that right?
What?
You took it off, you were holding it in front of you, and it just came off from the top?
Yes.
Did you see the cap come off?
No.
The last time you saw it before it spilled, was the cap still on it?
I don't remember.
Did you ever touch the white portion of the container?
No.
Go ahead.
When the accident happened, was your mother reaching out to take the bottle away from you?
I don't remember.
Okay, was your mother looking at you when the accident happened?
I don't remember.
Was anybody looking at you when the accident happened?
I don't remember.
Okay, was anybody else around you when the accident happened?
You mean except my mother?
Yes.
No.
Okay, had you been shopping in the market and put things in the cart before the accident happened?
Yes.
And when you went to the store, did you go to the store to buy something to get the stain out of your pants?
Yes.
Okay, before the accident happened, did you read anything that was said on the label of the bottle?
No.
Did you know what was inside this bottle before the accident happened?
No.
Did you know that you weren't supposed to drink the stuff inside the bottle before the accident happened?
What?
I'll ask it again.
What?
All right. I am defense attorney, Mr. Reed, R-E-E-D.
I'm second defense attorney, Mr. Chavez, C-H-A-V-E-Z.
I am the witness.
I'm for the plaintiff, Mr. Black, B-L-A-C-K.
Make sure no one's out. Okay, starts with me. Examination by Mr. Reed, defense attorney. Ready? Dr. Brand, up to the date of this accident, when you were jogging, was it one of your concerns that you were worried about vehicles getting close to you while you were jogging?
Yes, always.
Did you wear any particular type of clothing or any kind of device so you'd be more visible to vehicles when you were jogging?
No.
At that time, did you ever jog at night?
No.
When you did jog, did you always try to jog during the day?
Yes, sir. I've never jogged at night.
Approximately how long would that take you? I mean, as far as the range of what it would take you to run 9 miles.
An hour.
Were you trying to shoot for a 6-minute mile or what?
No, I wasn't paying attention to the time at all.
Before September 27th, had you ever seen Jim Benton?
Not that I know of.
Did you know Mr. Benton at all or any member of his family before whatever that date in September?
I believe I knew his wife.
What's his wife's name?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just drawing a blank.
That's okay. Thank you. Continue.
I asked you to bring certain documents to the deposition today, so let me just go through the categories.
We'll try to get through this quickly and make sure that we have all the documents.
The first category is any photographs relating to the subject matter, including the injuries or the scene of the incident.
And we have provided you with the original pictures, and then we've provided you with photographs of the pictures.
Yes, okay. Do you see those pictures?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any other pictures that relate to your injuries or the incident or the vehicle?
No, there may be other photographs, but they would be of the same thing.
Okay. How many pictures do you have of the injuries that you sustained as a result of this incident?
8 or 10.
And who took those?
My wife.
The two pictures that I am handing you show some injuries to the facial area and also some lacerations.
If it's all right with you, could we have these marked?
We can mark them on the back, and I will return those to Mr. Black and have the photocopies attached.
That would be fine.
All right. Dr. Brand, showing you what's been marked as Exhibit A, is that one of the photographs that your wife took of the injuries you sustained in September of 1993?
Yes.
How long afterwards was it that the picture was taken, if you recall?
I think it was the next day.
And then Exhibit B, is that another picture that depicts the injuries that you sustained in September 1993?
Yes.
Do you believe that that picture was taken at the same time?
Yes, I do.
And then it's your recollection that there were approximately 7 or 8 more pictures that would show the same general injuries?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
At the time of this incident, what type of vehicle was Mr. Benton driving, if you know?
It was a pickup truck with a set of dual wheels on the rear.
What color was his pickup truck?
White.
When did you first see the pickup when you were jogging on that Sunday, the end of September?
I was on Gerber Road, running in a westerly direction on the south side of the road, running against traffic. I was approximately 200 yards from the intersection of Gerber and County Line roads.
Was it your normal practice that you would run facing traffic?
Yes, sir.
Did Gerber Road have a shoulder on the road?
A soft shoulder, yes.
What do you mean by soft shoulder?
The street was made of asphalt and there is a white line along the edge where it meets the soft shoulder, but the shoulder is dirt.
When there is no traffic coming toward you, do you run in the middle of the roadway or on one side?
I run on the edge of the road by the edge of the asphalt.
So that would be the edge of the asphalt facing traffic?
That's right.
Did any vehicles pass you before you saw Mr. Benton's vehicle?
I do not recall, I don't think so.
Do you recall a Mazda pickup passing you?
Vaguely.
And do you recall that it passed you before Mr. Benton's vehicle did or afterwards?
My recollection is not precise enough. May I add to that answer?
That's fine, but don't speculate about anything.
If a vehicle passes me on the road, and I've been passed by millions of vehicles, I don't pay attention unless there's some reason for me to remember the vehicle. In other words, if the vehicle is passing me at an appropriate speed and also driving normally, I'd have no reason to recall it.
So once Mr. Benton's truck passed you on Gerber Road, if a vehicle did pass you before that time, you had no particular reason to remember it. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Now, did Mr. Benton's vehicle pass you as you were jogging on Gerber Road?
Yes.
What was unusual about his vehicle that caught your attention?
It was going too fast and he came very close. There was no other traffic on the road that day going in the opposite direction. And in spite of that, and in spite of the fact that he was driving a vehicle with wide tires on the rear, he didn't leave me any room.
When you say Mr. Benton's vehicle was going fast, do you have any estimate as to its speed when it passed you?
No, I don't.
When you first saw the truck, was it in the same lane as you were in?
Yes.
At any time, did you see any part of the truck move over the center line as it was approaching where you were jogging?
No.
So are you saying you feel that Mr. Benton should have moved over across the center line when he passed you?
Or he could have slowed down.
Are you saying that if he had slowed down, then it would have been all right with you if he had stayed in the same lane which you were in?
That's right.
In your opinion, how far would he have had to slow down to stay in the same lane you were in?
Objection. It's vague, unintelligible, and calls for speculation. With those provisions, do you understand his question? You may answer it.
No, I don't understand it.
Do you even know how fast Mr. Benton was traveling as he approached you?
Well, let's be honest. I mean, I'm running and going in the opposite direction. It's very difficult for me to gauge his speed.
Did you feel that he could have stayed in your same lane if he was going at a slower speed?
Yes, if he had made any attempt to slow down from whatever speed he was doing, it would have been at least a recognition on his part that I was there.
Did you make any eye contact with Mr.
No, I did not.
with Mr. Benton as he passed you?
No, I did not.
As the truck approached, did you make any attempt to leave the roadway?
I had to get off the road onto the shoulder.
Why was that?
Because of his speed, he left me no room on the road.
Did you feel that Mr. Benton did something wrong because you had to leave the roadway and go onto the shoulder?
I thought he was driving too fast. I thought it was not very courteous on his part to not recognize the fact that I was jogging on the road.
How much slower should have been his speed that it would be acceptable to you?
Calls for speculation.
I can't answer that question.
Do you know what the speed limit is on Gerber Road in that area?
It's not marked that I know of, so I would assume it's 45 or 55.
Did you feel Mr. Benton was traveling faster than 45 or 55?
Definitely.
As he passed by, did you make any gesture toward him?
After Mr. Benton passed, I gave him the finger.
Which arm?
The right.
Did you continue on jogging when you did that?
Yes, I did.
Is this something you normally do? I mean, sticking your finger out?
No.
Is it a rare occurrence for you?
Yes.
What was it about this particular incident that made you want to give Mr. Benton the finger?
He damn near killed me.
Did you feel any part of his truck actually touch you?
No part of the truck touched me.
What was it about this occasion that caused you to give him the finger?
I just told you, I felt he was driving fast. He didn't have any respect for the fact I was there. He damn near killed me. Maybe I was in a bad mood. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was hot. There was no traffic in the opposite direction. He easily could have slowed down or pulled over. He was coming to a stop sign soon. He had absolutely no right to be going that fast and staying that close to the edge of the road. Haven't I made that clear?
The witness has already made that abundantly clear. Go on with it.
When you stuck your arm up in the air and flipped the bird, was he right next to you then, or had he driven by, or do you recall?
He had driven by.
Did you make any gesture for Mr. Benton to come back?
No,
Did
sir.
you feel better after you had flipped him the bird?
Not really.
So why'd you do it?
Why did I do it? I think I've already told you. Do you want me to repeat it again?
It's asked and answered. You don't have to answer it.
So after Mr. Benton passed, did you go back onto the roadway from the shoulder and continue jogging?
Yes.
Did you hear Mr. Benton's vehicle slow down?
I heard a screeching of tires.
And did you look back to see where the screeching of tires was coming from?
Yes, I did.
What did you see?
I saw the white pickup turning around.
What happened next?
I continued to jog. Mr. Benton drove up alongside of me and asked me something about why I gave him the finger. I told him why. All the things we have discussed here.
Did Mr. Benton appear to be angry?
Yes, he did.
Were you angry?
Not particularly.
What led you to believe he was angry?
His tone of voice and demeanor.
What about his demeanor?
He told me something to the effect that he was going to kick my ass.
Did you make any response?
I said if he did that, he'd go to jail.
Did you tell him that while you were still jogging?
Yes.
What happened next?
He pulled his vehicle over in front of me to block my path.
Are you saying that he pulled his vehicle across in the lane you were traveling in
That is correct.
to block your path?
That's correct.
Did you stop at that time?
No, I didn't. I ran around his vehicle and continued to jog.
Then what occurred?
I don't remember exactly, but the same scenario repeated itself 2 or 3 times.
Had you feared for your safety at this time when Mr. Benton pulled his truck in front of you?
Yes, sir.
What was it that caused you to fear for your safety?
Does that have to be answered? Isn't it obvious?
Go ahead and answer if you can.
Well, when he pulled his vehicle across the road in front of me, if I hadn't stopped, he probably would have hit me. He obviously had the intention of inflicting some physical harm upon me. If that's not been made clear by the examination up to this point, we must be dealing with a dense mind. But in any event, the combination of his tone of voice, his demeanor, and the fact he was not allowing me to continue on my jog gave me the impression that Mr. Benton was upset with me, and
Were you upset with him at that point?
not really.
You never raised your voice?
No, sir.
You never used any obscenities towards Mr. Benton?
No, sir, other than what we have discussed.
I understand that you ran onto some buildings at the end of the road. K&P Salvage, I believe it is.
Yes,
As you turned into the driveway of K&P Salvage, Mr. Benton's vehicle came on your right side?
my left side.
Okay, then which foot did it catch?
The outside, it just caught the edge of the shoe, the left shoe.
So you were knocked down at that point?
Yes, the right front fender struck my chest as I fell.
And then did Mr. Benton get out of his vehicle and walk around to you?
He did.
You stayed on the ground, is that correct?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
I don't remember being able to get up.
Why couldn't you get up?
That's a good question. I don't remember. It's possible that I had the wind knocked out of me. It's possible that I was stunned by the impact. I had sustained a broken rib. If you were hit by a truck and knocked down with a broken rib, I don't think you'd bounce right back up.
Okay, did you see Mr. Benton come toward you as you lay on the ground?
Yes,
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
You just lay there on the ground?
I tried to protect myself from him.
How was that?
I think I put my hands in front of my face or turned on my stomach. I forget.
Then what did Mr. Benton do while you lay there?
He struck me several times.
What did he strike you with?
I assume it was his fist.
Do you know?
Excuse me?
Do you know?
I didn't see anything. I don't remember him having anything in his hands, so it must have been his fist.
All right.
Unusual for you to flip the pen.
That's right. Supposed to be bigger. Usually defense attorney.
All right. Okay, tell me who you are, Melissa.
I'm for the defense, Mr. Braun, B-R-A-U-N.
I'm also for defense, Mr. Taylor, Taylor.
I am the witness.
I am plaintiff's attorney, Mr. Nelson, Nelson. Okay, and we are starting off with question by plaintiff's attorney. Ready? We're here about an incident that occurred on October 30, 1990, which occurred at a bar called La Terraza. Do you recall that incident?
Yes.
I would like to ask you some questions about that incident. First of all, were you at La Terraza Bar that day?
Yes.
And had you ever been to La Terraza prior to that incident?
Yes.
For how many years had you been going to La Terraza Bar prior to October 30, 1990?
Oh, I would say like since the place was open, say 78, 79, something like that.
About 10 years?
Yeah.
It's important to say yes or no.
Yes, longer.
Okay, longer than that. When did you arrive at La Terraza Bar on October 30, 1990?
Between 6 and 6:30.
In the evening?
Yes.
Did you have a drink while you were there?
Yes.
Did you know anyone there when you got there?
Yes, I knew George, the bartender, and then this other fellow, Philip, and there was a couple other people. I forget.
About how many people were in the bar that night?
Oh, about 5.
Let me ask you to clarify, at what time? That night could mean 5 hours.
Okay. But when you arrived there, how many people were in the bar then?
About 5.
Do you know a person named Rafael Chavez?
I know him now, but I didn't know him at the time.
From hindsight, was he in the bar that evening when you arrived there?
Yes.
Do you remember when or where he was sitting?
Yes.
Where was he sitting?
He was sitting close to the door.
Did you notice anything about his demeanor that evening?
At what time?
When you arrived there
At what time?
at 6:30.
6:30. Did I notice?
Was he quietly having a drink at 6:30?
Well, he was having some tequilas there, and he was a little loud, yeah.
Did you hear anything that he was saying?
Yes, you know, talking about, I forget what he was talking about.
He was loud though.
Yes.
Is that right? Do you know a gentleman named Mr. Tony Villa?
Yes.
How long have you known Mr. Villa?
About 15 years or more.
Did Mr. Villa come into the bar that evening?
Yes.
About what time did Mr. Villa come into the bar?
Between 6:30 and 7.
Was that after you were there?
Yes.
You saw him arrive?
Yes.
Do you know why Tony came to the bar that evening?
Yes, he came to fix some shelving and mirrors behind the bar.
Did he proceed to do that?
Yes.
Did you begin talking with Mr. Villa?
Yes, as soon as he got through, he came and talked to me, but we were talking all the time he was working.
Did Mr. Villa finish his job with the mirror?
Yes.
And about what time did he finish?
Close to 7 o'clock around there.
I take it the job did not take very long?
No, it didn't take very long. Small job.
And then did he sit down with you at the bar?
Yes.
Now, as you sat down at the bar, was Mr. Chavez near either of you?
Was he what?
Was he near or sitting near either of you?
Yes, he was sitting near me, 2 stools from me around there.
Was he still loud, as you said?
Yes.
Did he continue to be loud?
Yes.
Did he interrupt your conversation?
I'll object, that's leading.
Did his loudness affect your conversation with Mr. Villa?
Yes, because we were trying to talk and he kept interrupting about wanted to pay for the drinks, so we played with him a couple of times, once or twice, and then he kept insisting, you know, to play.
Did Mr. Villa do anything with Mr. Chavez at some point?
Well, he bought a round of drinks and he says, we don't want to play dice with you. You know, we're just talking over here. And so the guy kept insisting, and Finally, Tony told the guy to leave.
How did Tony tell the gentleman to leave?
Well, he just said, well, why don't you just leave? You know, you had too much to drink or something to that effect, and I guess he escorted him out.
Did you see Mr. Villa escort Mr. Chavez out?
Yes.
And how did he do that?
Well, they were just walking to the door.
Did Mr. Villa carry Mr. Chavez out?
No,
Was Mr. Villa rough?
no,
Did Mr. Villa come back to the bar after this?
yes.
About how long
He
after?
came right back in.
When you first saw Mr. Chavez when you walked outside, what was he doing?
When I first saw him, he was getting in his, or he had just got in his truck, and then he came after me.
Did he get out of the truck?
Yes.
Did he run after you?
Yes, pretty fast too.
And what did he say to you?
He said, do you want some more of the same? So he came close to me and I ran back.
How close did he get to you?
I'd say 10 feet, not that much. Closer, you know?
Did he have any weapons on him?
I couldn't tell. I didn't bother to look. I was running the other way.
You said you ran across the street?
Yes.
Was the bar across the street?
Yes.
So Mr. Chavez was parked across the street from the bar?
Well, he was parked on the same side of the street as the bar, but I am referring to the cross street that crosses Mission.
Where is the bar located, by the way?
It's on Mission and Portland.
Again, with hindsight, had you ever seen Mr. Chavez in the bar before this incident?
I think I saw him once before. He was acting the same way, yeah.
Did you go back to the bar after that? Did you see Tony at the bar after that?
Yes,
You have to answer out loud.
yes.
Did an ambulance eventually come?
Well, the ambulance came right away, yes.
And were you at some point able to confirm that Tony had indeed been stabbed?
Yes.
During Mr. Chavez's deposition, he said that Tony said to him, this is for the record page, it looks like 55, line 20. Let me start at line 16. Did Mr. Villa say anything to you before you stabbed him? Yes. What did he say to you? He said, you over there, you have a voice like a stupid woman. Get out of here. Did you ever hear Mr. Villa?
I didn't hear that, no.
Let me ask the question. Did you ever hear Mr. Villa say that to Mr. Chavez?
No,
Did you ever hear Mr. Villa raise his voice to Mr. Chavez?
no,
Did you ever see Mr. Villa pick up Mr. Chavez?
no,
Did you ever see Mr. Villa throw Mr. Chavez to the sidewalk?
no,
When Mr. Chavez ran towards you, did it appear as if Mr. Chavez had been physically injured?
not at all.
When Mr. Villa went to the door the second time, in the time that he was at the door, in your opinion, was it possible that he could have gone to Mr. Chavez's truck and returned?
I'll object as being speculative.
You can still answer.
No,
That's all I have for now.
Shall I begin?
Sure, if you want to.
Mr. Mello,
yes,
you state that you began going to La Terraza Bar sometime in 1978,
around there.
and at the time, you were ever employed by any owner of the bar?
Oh, yes,
In any capacity?
yes.
And what was that?
I used to help Louis Castro tend bar on the weekends sometimes when he needed somebody.
So you were there pretty frequently?
For a time, yes.
What time was that?
Well, that was when he first opened the bar, you know, that was 78, around there.
And when did you stop doing those sort of things for Mr. Castro?
About 2 years later,
1980?
yes.
But you continued going to that bar?
Occasionally, yes.
And how occasionally was that?
Sometimes once a week, twice a week, sometimes once every 2 months or every 3 months.
And it's your testimony that maybe you had seen during the 12-year period Mr. Chavez at one time before the night of October the 30th?
Yes, that I can remember.
Mr. Villa, why don't you just call him Tony for short?
Yes,
He was too employed at the bar in some capacity at some time?
yes.
And what capacity was that?
He was tending bar.
And what period was that he was tending bar?
He was tending bar after I left, but I worked with him before, you know, a few times.
Between 70 and 72?
Yes,
And he remained after 70 tending bar?
yes.
Do you know how long that was when he...
I don't remember exactly, but he was Lewis's regular bartender for a while.
But you don't know what time that terminated?
I don't remember, no.
Had you ever seen, well, Mr. Villa, Tony, had arrived at the bar how long after you arrived at the bar?
I arrived before him.
Right, but how much later did Tony arrive?
I'd say 15, 20 minutes, half hour.
And he was engaged when he got to the bar in doing what?
He was replacing some glass mirrors and shelves in back of the bar as far as I can remember.
In back of the bar. The bar, like any other bar, is a wooden structure, I suppose, How many feet long?
The bar is.
Why don't you draw?
You don't have to draw a diagram. I want you to know, but it's up to you.
I'll do it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Why don't you draw a diagram? Here's the pen of the outside perimeter.
Okay, here is the bar like that, and here is the entrance.
Okay.
And then Tony was working in this area back here.
Are there any bottles, liquor bottles around there?
Yes, there is, all around this area here.
Why don't you put liquor and sinks or mirrors or whatever else is there? Why don't you put a label?
No, the sinks are here. I am not going to put in labels. I am just going to draw you a diagram.
How long is that bar?
I'd say it is about 25 feet, 20 feet maybe.
May the record reflect that I am placing the word mirrors and I underlined it where witness had previously indicated where the mirrors were. So what is 20 or 25 feet? What does the corner represent right here?
That is a wall.
And the entrance to the bar is what I will put an E onto the label. Is that where the door is?
Yes,
The front door to the street?
yes,
And then out that door is Mission Street?
yes.
Or the sidewalk of Mission Street?
Well, no, there is a little entrance there. Let's see if I remember right. Yeah, it's out to the street, I guess. No, there is a little glass out there, you know. There is a little entranceway there.
Is the entranceway that leads to the bar a structure? Is it separately partitioned in any way for a few feet? Is that what you mean?
I think that's ambiguous.
No, the entrance doors, there is a little way before the sidewalk. There is a little entranceway.
Like, is it covered? Would you please describe it? It's not simply a door, like the door in the back which opens into a big room.
No, it just opens out into the open, you know, the entrance door looking inside the bar.
And it opens out to the sidewalk?
Yes, out to the sidewalk.
Well, when you come through the entrance door, when a person first comes into the bar, what is there? Stools?
Yes,
And where are the stools in this diagram? Are they in here or out here?
there, out here.
Oh, I see. On the outside?
Yes,
This is the wood bar here, where people sit?
Formica, yeah.
Okay, Formica bar. And this is approximately 25, 30 feet long?
Oh, about 20, 25 probably.
20, 25 feet. May the record reflect that I am writing 20, 25 feet, and that I wrote Formica bar. And the stools are on this side of the Formica bar?
Yes.
How many do you remember? How many stools were present in this area on the night of October 30th, 1990?
Well, it was around, there are stools all the way around the bar.
All this way?
Yes,
And also up here?
right, yes,
So if I put S for stools, this would be the general area where the stools would be?
right.
Until how close to the door?
They're all around, close to the door, all the way around there.
Oh, I see. Well, let me see if I have any more questions. In 1990, October 30th, 1990, how many pounds did Tony weigh, if you have any idea?
He weighed, always looked the same to me.
And what was that? Was he a big man?
No, he is a tall, skinny guy.
How tall is he?
I'd say he is around 5'11", 6,
6 feet?
not 6 feet, maybe 5'11". He just, you know, a little taller than I am, but his weight is way below me. He is about 150, 160, around there probably.
Do you remember what he was wearing that night?
He was in working clothes. I think he was just wearing a shirt or jacket. I think a working jacket, I don't know, working clothes anyway.
When Mr. Chavez said, "Want some more of the same," did he say that in Spanish or English?
English.
Were you paying much attention? Well, to whom was Mr. Chavez talking when you say he was a little loud, if you remember?
Okay, I am defense attorney, Mr. Hausauer. Housouer.
I'm also for defense, Mr. Moffett, Moffat.
I am the witness.
I'm for the plaintiff, Mr. Hickey, Hickey.
Okay, starts with me, question by defense, ready? How do you do? Have you ever had your deposition taken before?
No.
I suppose you have had a chance to talk with your attorney about what we are going to do here today, is that right?
Yes.
This is just going to be a question and answer session about the lawsuit that you brought on behalf of your son for personal injuries. I am the attorney that represents Desert Hospital, and we want to get information about the lawsuit. It is not a memory contest, so if there is something that you have forgotten, just tell me, and that is all right. If you don't know the answer, it is perfectly okay to tell me you don't. It is important for everybody that you don't guess or speculate about answers, but if you can give me reasonable estimates of certain things that I might ask, that would be okay, as long as it is based on something that you are familiar with, or rather than just a guess. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, you have also got to answer out loud. If you shake your head yes or no, the gentleman here can't write that down. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And you can't answer or or because that looks exactly the same in writing, and I won't know what you meant when I read it, okay?
Uh-huh.
At the end of the deposition, everything that we have said in this room is going to be typed into a little booklet form, and we are going to send it to you, and at that point in time, you will have a chance to read it over, and you're going to sign it under penalty of perjury. And at that point in time, if you want to make a change in what you said, you can do that, but that is a very bad thing to do, because if you do that, that is the same thing as changing testimony under oath. And if the matter ever goes to trial, someone would comment on the fact that you changed testimony under oath. Now, that would reflect on your credibility as a witness. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Is there anything you want to ask me before we start?
No.
Can you tell me where you currently reside?
In Palm Springs.
Can you give the street address?
It's 611 El Placer.
Can you tell me who you reside there with?
With my 2 children.
Okay.
And my boyfriend.
Okay, is that Mr. Lavorna?
Yes.
I understand that he is the father of the plaintiff in this action.
Yes.
Is he the father of any of your other children?
Both my children.
How long have you resided with him?
5, 6 years.
All right. I understand you became pregnant sometime around January of 1982. Does that sound about right?
That I became,
With the plaintiff in this action.
he was born in December of 1992.
So it was sometime in the spring of 82, and sometime after that, you began treating with Dr. Coit. Is that right?
No, Dr. Coit was Angelo's pediatrician. My obstetrician was a different doctor. I am not understanding you.
That is what I wanted to know. Dr. Coit was not your obstetrician?
No, Dr. Coit was the pediatrician.
Who is your obstetrician?
Larry Berkowitz.
Where is he located?
In Palm Springs.
And when you were admitted for the birth of your son, and I am going to refer to him hereafter as your son, but I mean the plaintiff in this lawsuit. Do you understand?
Okay.
Were you admitted under the care of Dr. Berkowitz or Dr. Coit?
Berkowitz.
When was the first time that you met Dr. Coit?
The nurse in the hospital asked who was the pediatrician if I had one, and I said no, and she gave me a list. And I was familiar with Dr. Coit's name, and I picked him as the pediatrician. I also had taken my daughter years ago for something minor.
During the course of your pregnancy, when you were treating with Dr. Berkowitz, did you have any other physicians that were treating you during the period of your pregnancy other than Dr. Berkowitz?
Before I had a pregnancy test, when I thought I might be pregnant, I had gone to a urologist at Eisenhower for a bladder infection, and I can't recall his name.
This was during the initial stages of the pregnancy?
And I told him I thought I might be pregnant, so he prescribed an antibiotic that was safe to take.
Did you see him only at Eisenhower?
Just once in his office for the bladder infection.
Then I take it his office is in one of the buildings there at the Eisenhower Medical Center?
Yes, he's a neurologist.
Did that bladder infection resolve itself?
Yes.
You weren't having any troubles with it at the time you were admitted for your delivery?
No,
Other than this bladder infection, are you aware of any other problems that you had medically during your pregnancy?
none.
Your obstetrician never told you that you had any infections during the course of your pregnancy?
No,
Do you know whether or not he tested you for infections?
yes,
And he told you that all the tests were negative?
yes.
So as far as you know, when you were admitted to the hospital for the delivery of your son, you had no medical diseases or illnesses that you were aware of?
That's correct.
Were there any complications that you were made aware of during the course of your labor and delivery?
No,
Did you develop any other medical problems while you were in the hospital for the delivery?
during the delivery?
Yes.
No,
So during the time that you were at the hospital for the delivery of your son, you weren't treated for any other medical problems?
no.
When were you first made aware that your son was having some kind of a problem?
In the recovery room, I believe it was Dr. Berkowitz that came in and said that my son had a small, maybe $half size rash on his chest and was going to let Dr. Coit take over from there as he was a pediatrician.
Was it at that point that they asked you who your pediatrician was, and that is when you picked Dr. Coit?
No, they asked me when I was in labor.
So that is how Dr. Berkowitz knew how to contact Dr. Coit, because you already had stated he was your pediatrician?
Yes, the nurse asked me which pediatrician, and I picked Coit.
Did Dr. Berkowitz give you any opinion at that time as to what the cause of that rash was?
No,
At that point in time, were you allowed to observe the rash? In other words, did you see your son?
yes,
Did you see your son before Dr. Coit saw your son?
yes.
What did you observe on your son's body when you first saw him?
Just a very light skin irritation or rash, just very small.
Excuse me, when you answered, you used a hand gesture indicating the chest. I would like for the record to reflect that. Is that correct?
Yes, the chest.
Remember, he can't take down nods of the head and gestures, so if you're going to describe something, you can't do it with your hands.
Do you know when Dr. Coit first saw your son?
Shortly after he was delivered, I believe.
The same day?
Yes,
Did you talk with Dr. Coit after he first saw your son?
yes.
What did Dr. Coit tell you at that time?
Dr. Coit said that he believed there was a good chance that the small rash was just a normal newborn rash, and he used a medical name that
That you don't recall at the moment?
I don't recall the name, but he said what it meant was a normal newborn rash.
Now, can you describe for me what the setup was thereafter as far as your being able to be in the same room with your child? I mean, were you seeing your child every day while you were in the hospital?
For the first, I can't remember exactly, I believe it was the first 2 days, they were bringing the baby in my room for the normal feedings. And as the rash developed from its chest to other parts of his body, they kept him isolated in an isolette away from the other infants in the nursery and wouldn't let the baby come in my room so I could view him through the maternity window, but that was it.
During that period of time then, you were not feeding the baby yourself?
No.
When did you first begin to notice that the rash was spreading?
Late the first night. He was born on Thursday and late into the night.
So by Thursday night, you had observed the rash to spread?
It had spread slightly, yes.
Was it just spreading from the chest outward, or was it developing in other parts of his body?
I believe the chest, from the chest outward.
Did the rash change in appearance, or was it still just a red spot?
The rash, from being a light color, got darker red and I believe more raised.
Now, the next day, what did you observe in regard to how the rash had progressed?
It just continued to get worse or spread.
Did you bring this to the attention of any of the personnel at the hospital?
Yes.
What did they tell you about it?
That they weren't qualified to diagnose, such as the nurses in the nursery, and I should wait to ask Dr. Coit, his pediatrician.
When did you next see Dr. Coit?
I made a point of seeing him every day when he was in to check his patients, and I talked to him on the phone. I would call him at his office in between.
Did you call him at his office every day?
I don't recall if it was every day. I know it was several times.
Did he come and visit with you every day after he had seen your son?
Yes.
What did he tell you he thought was wrong with your son during this period of time?
He told me he didn't know what was wrong.
Did he tell you what he was going to do as far as treating the child?
Yes.
What did he tell you he was going to do?
He told me that he was going to test for different infections such as bacteria or staph infection or herpes, or I think that is what I can remember. I know there was more.
Did he ever tell you the results of those tests?
Negative on the herpes and negative on the staph infection.
Now, do you know how many days approximately it was after your son's birth that he was transferred to Loma Linda?
7 days.
How long was your hospital stay?
6 days.
So you were discharged from the hospital before your son was?
Yes, on a Thursday.
You were discharged on Thursday, you say?
Uh-huh.
How do you remember it was a Thursday? Is there some reason for that?
I just remember when I took him to Loma Linda and it was on Friday. I believe I am correct.
What did you observe about your baby's condition on the day that you were discharged?
It was very severe in my opinion.
What did the child look like at that time?
He was almost covered.
Did that include his face and head?
His face, his arms, his legs, his diaper area. The only part that wasn't severe was the middle of his back end in between his fingers where red pustules, blister type.
Did you observe those on any other part of his body, the pustules?
No, it was just very severe in between the fingers and in the diaper area.
How was it that you learned that your son was to be transferred to Loma Linda?
Because I told Dr. Coit that I was taking him to Loma Linda.
Prior to that time, had Dr. Coit or anyone else suggested to you that you should have the child taken to Loma Linda?
No,
So this was a decision you made on your own?
yes,
Did anyone disagree with your decision or tell you not to do that?
not really tell me not to do it.
On the day that this occurred, did you talk to Dr. Coit, the day of the transfer, to Loma Linda?
That is when I told him I was going to take him to Loma Linda.
What did Dr. Coit say to you at that time?
As close as I can remember the conversation, Dr. Coit, said that I could take the baby home. And I told Dr. Coit that I would feel better if I had Loma Linda look at my son. And Dr. Coit said, fine, if that is what you plan on doing, then I will go ahead and call and have a doctor meet you.
Did Dr. Coit actually suggest to you that you should transfer the child to Loma Linda?
No,
What did he tell you at that point in time his opinion was with regard to what was wrong with your son?
his comment was that in his opinion, my son just had a normal newborn rash and that I could go ahead and take him home and he would be fine.
Okay, now go. I'll tell you if they can do. Tell me who you are now.
Okay. I am for defense, Mr. Hull, Hull.
I am the court.
I am the witness.
I am plaintiff's attorney, Ms. Taffetti, Taffetti. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, here we go. All right. Starts with me, direct examination by plaintiff's attorney. What did you do then when you saw the vehicle?
I knocked at the door. It was apartment number 4, the northeast corner of the building, and the door was answered by 2 elderly people. Stated when I asked them if it was their car, they said it belonged to their son.
Did they indicate what their son's name was?
No, ma'am, I didn't ask.
Did you have subsequent conversation with the parents?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Could you relate to us what transpired?
The contents of the conversation was if they knew the whereabouts of their son. They stated that he wasn't home. I asked them if anybody else had access to his vehicle and pointed out that it was parked at the rear of their residence. They stated that he had been using it.
What did you do then?
I left the doorway and went back to where I parked my patrol vehicle and noticed that the vehicle described by the victim with the Jack in the Box, the door was in an open condition, the dome light was on.
Had the door been open when you first saw the vehicle?
I hadn't made that observation.
What did you do then when you saw the door open on the car?
I went to the car, looked inside.
Why did you do this?
I felt that Mr. Moyer was probably in the car when I arrived there, might still be there.
Did you see anything when you looked in the door of the car?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What did you see?
I saw a paper sack with the name Jack in the Box written on it.
Where was this bag located?
It was in the front seat, about the center.
Was there anything else on the front seat?
Yes, ma'am, there was a man's comb and a black leather wallet.
What did you do when you saw these items on the seat then?
I collected the sack, which contained a hamburger and the wrapper for the hamburger, and then the outer sack and the California driver's license from the wallet.
What was the name on the driver's license?
The name was Moyer, Darrell Moyer.
Was there a picture on the driver's license of the owner of the license?
Yes, ma'am, there was.
Did this picture resemble or match the description given you of the suspect by the victim?
Yes, ma'am, it did.
What did you do then with the wrappers and the wallet?
I locked them in the trunk of my patrol vehicle.
What did you do then?
I traveled through the area in the alleys behind the residences checking for Darrell Moyer.
Pardon?
I traveled through the alleyways and streets in the immediate area checking for Darrell Moyer, believing that he was in the area and on foot.
Did you subsequently find Mr. Moyer?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you locate him?
He was walking down an alley some 200 yards east of the residence.
Did you see the gentleman in court today?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Could you tell us where he is seated?
He is seated in the front row of the seats closest to the aisle in the blue jacket.
It may be stipulated that Officer Beard has identified the defendant.
Stipulated?
So stipulate.
Record reflect the stipulation.
What did you do when you saw Mr. Moyer in the alley?
I put him in the car and searched him, put him in the car, advised him of his rights, and questioned him about the activities just prior to contacting him.
Did he make any statements to you at that time?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
Could you tell us what he said?
Yes, ma'am. When questioned, he stated that he had been at the Jack in the Box, had ordered food, had just left there prior to being contacted by us, that the food was in his car, and that he was just out for a walk before he was going to eat it.
I have no further questions.
Now, officer, when you arrived at the Jack in the Box, you talked to a girl, you don't know her name.
I don't recall her name, no, sir. It's shown in my report.
Will you describe the girl?
No, sir, I can't.
Don't you remember what she looked like?
No, sir.
How long did you talk to her?
Probably 10 or 15 minutes.
What did she tell you?
She described Daryl Moyer, stated that he had been in the restaurant before and exposed himself, that all the employees were aware of him and his vehicle. It was a continuing problem, that the last time he came in and exposed himself, she contacted a store security guard who happened to be there as a customer. He told her if it happened again, she should call the Sacramento Sheriff's Department.
Did she say he had exposed himself to her before?
I don't recall, only that he had been in the business, had exposed himself driving through.
Did she say he exposed himself to her that night?
I answered that, yes.
I am asking you.
That night?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
How did he expose himself?
He was seated in his car, he had his pants down.
Did she state that he said anything to her?
Not that I recall, sir.
Did she state she said anything to him?
Not that I recall.
What description of him did she give again?
She described him as a heavy-set man with dark hair, full face. He had a mole or something next to his nose on his face.
A mole?
A distinctive mark next to his nose on his face.
You saw the defendant that night? Mr. Moyer, will you come up please to the officer? Right there is fine. Does Mr. Moyer look to you the way he looked that night?
Yes, similar, sir.
You don't see anything different?
He looks like the person I talked to that night.
Were there any features of his that were different than that night?
Your Honor, may we approach the bench for a moment, please?
Strike the last question.
Proceed.
You stated she gave you the license number of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And do you know what the license number was?
No, I don't recall, sir.
Did you write it down?
Yes, I did.
You have those notes where you wrote it down?
I recorded it in my police report.
You recorded in your police report at the time she gave it to you?
No, sir.
Did you memorize the license number?
No, sir, I recorded it on a notebook. I don't have the field notes available.
Then you talked to another girl at the restaurant, Jack in the Box, concerning this case, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember her name?
No, sir, I don't.
Can you describe her?
No, sir.
What did she tell you?
That, the same subject, she saw the man on some occasion and he had been in on other occasions. There is the same conduct.
Did she say Mr. Moyer exposed himself to her that night?
No, sir.
You then obtained the name of the owner of the vehicle whose license plate number you had, right?
Yes, sir.
Was this done on the phone?
No, sir.
How did you do it?
Broadcast off the police radio.
It was given back to you on the police radio who the owner was?
Yes, sir.
Was any description given to you on the police radio?
I didn't request one, sir.
Then you proceeded.
Objection.
Overruled.
Then you proceeded to the address that was given to you as the owner of the court, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who owned the home?
No, sir, I didn't.
Now, can you describe for us on a drawing?
What purpose is this, Mr. Hull?
Did you have permission to enter his property from anyone?
Enter whose property?
Mr. Moyer's property, the grounds that Mr. Moyer lived on.
Objection, Your Honor. I don't feel this question is relevant. The officer didn't need permission from anyone to walk up to the house and knock on the door.
Sustained.
Did you have permission from anybody to enter Mr. Moyer's car?
No, sir, I didn't.
Now, when you approached the car, you observed the door was open. Which door was it that was open?
When I got to the vehicle,
Yes.
the driver's side, sir,
How far was it open?
it was open only far enough to have the dome light come on, whatever distance that would be. It wasn't standing wide open, but it was standing open.
You stated you observed some paraphernalia from the Jack in the Box.
Yes, sir.
Where was that located?
On the front seat of the car.
Then you stated you observed a wallet.
Yes, sir.
Where was that located?
Also on the seat of the car.
Did you enter the car to get that wallet?
Yes, sir, I did.
What did you do when you got the wallet?
Removed the California driver's license from within it.
Where did you put the driver's license?
The driver's license inside the bag of food.
You looked at the license, right?
Yes, sir.
You saw a picture of Mr. Moyer?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me 1 second. Had you ever seen a picture of Mr. Moyer prior to the picture you saw on the driver's license?
Not that I recall, sir.
How tall were you told Mr. Moyer was?
I don't recall, only that he was a big man. I don't recall exactly, but that he was a large man and heavy set.
I am not asking what you recall. What were you told?
I am afraid I don't know, sir. I don't recall.
Were you given his weight, approximate weight?
I don't recall, sir. I don't have a copy of my report. I could check that. May I take a look at my report?
Can you testify what was told to you was reported subsequently by yourself in the police report?
Yes, Your Honor.
Does that satisfy you, counsel?
In other words, anything you were told about Mr. Moyer you put in the police report?
All the information I felt necessary for this particular crime was entered in my report, yes.
Was there any information you were given that you felt was unnecessary?
Not that I recall, sir.
Now, did you enter Mr. Moyer's home?
No, sir, I didn't.
What was the answer?
No, sir.
Now, after you had looked in the car and taken the paraphernalia and the driver's license, didn't you take anything out of the wallet?
No, sir.
Did you look at anything else in the wallet?
No, sir.
Were the keys in the car?
Yes, sir, they were.
Did you take the keys?
No, sir.
Was the car running?
No, sir, it wasn't.
I believe you testified you started to look around for Mr. Moyer.
Yes, sir.
Where did you go to look for him?
Just driving around the streets in the area.
Did you find Mr. Moyer?
Yes, sir.
How far was he from his residence?
Some 200 yards.
Was he walking towards his residence or away?
He was actually standing against a building in the back of that alley.
You went up to him? Did you get out of the car, go up to him?
Yes.
What did you ask him?
I asked him who he was. He identified himself. I patted him down, put him in the back of my car.
Were you arresting him?
I was detaining him in order to secure the information identifying him as the suspect in the indecent exposure.
While you were at his residence, did you ever arrest him?
No, sir.
Why not?
I can't arrest him on a misdemeanor.
Asking for a legal conclusion, aren't you, as to whether or not he arrested him? Isn't that a legal conclusion?
Well, okay. Did you detain him? If Mr. Moyer did not,
For the interest of consumption of time, as far as this is concerned, the defendant was placed in the car. That constituted an arrest. That was in fact an arrest when he placed the defendant in the car. The court will so find.
then what did you do?
All right, tell me who you are. What'd she say? I know, huh?
I'm for defense, Mr. Santana, Santana.
I am the court.
I am the witness.
I am plaintiff's attorney, Ms. Budar, Budar. And that name there that we're going to call Fatolahi.
Mohammed Reza.
That works. Okay, so we're starting at the top and colloquy, margin the court.
People versus Mohammed Reza Fatolahi and Roy Beasley. Are the people ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Santana, are you ready to proceed on behalf of Mr. Beasley?
Yes, I am.
Do you waive further reading of the complaint and statement of rights?
Yes, I do.
Are you ready to proceed on behalf of your client, Mr. Fatolahi?
Yes, I am.
Do you waive further reading of the complaint and statement of rights?
Yes.
You may proceed.
At this point, I am noticing a 1538.5 motion. I want to suppress all tangible and intangible evidence retrieved by the people, and in particular, the arrest and detention of my client, Mr. Fisher, joins on behalf of Mr. Fatolahi, Your Honor.
Call your first witness.
Thank you.
Before you do that, is there a stipulation that there was no arrest or search warrant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Call your first witness.
The people call Brian Centeno to the stand.
I make a motion to exclude all other witnesses.
Yes, please identify your other witnesses.
Detective Federling, Deputy Federling, Deputy Click, Bosket, and James Moore.
All of you whose names were just called, please wait in the hallway until you are called in to testify. Please do not discuss your testimony with each other.
Deputy Bosket is our investigating officer.
Yes, he can remain as the investigating officer. Could I have the names of the witnesses again?
Federling, Click, and James Moore.
Please have them come back this afternoon. Deputy Federling and Mr. Moore, you have to return this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Please do not discuss this matter amongst yourselves or with any other persons. Both of you are to return at 2 o'clock. Where is the other gentleman?
He's probably not here yet.
All right, you may proceed. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you please state your full name?
Brian Centeno,
Would you please spell your last name?
Centeno.
Thank you very much. You may be seated in the witness stand.
Mr. Centeno, I'm sorry. Mr. Centeno, would you tell us what your current occupation is?
Security at Kmart.
And which Kmart would that be?
The one at 5665 Rosemead.
Please speak up.
5665 Rosemead.
Was that 5665 Rosemead in Temple City?
Yes.
And is that in the county of Los Angeles?
Yes, it is.
Were you employed as a security guard at Kmart at the Rosemead location on August the 3rd, 1983?
Yes, I was.
Yes, you were.
Yes, I was there.
And you will have to speak up.
Yes, I was.
And on that day at approximately 8:30 p.m., did you observe anything unusual taking place?
Yes.
What?
I observed two subjects on the patio department placing cigarettes, cartons of cigarettes in trash cans.
In trash cans?
Yes.
Did you notice how many cartons?
How many cartons?
Yes.
At the time, I noticed a subject with over 10 cartons in his cart in the baby seat, and he was placing them in a trash can.
In a trash can?
Yes.
All right.
One of our trash cans. It was about a 20-gallon trash can.
20 gallon?
Yes.
Where was the trash can?
In the front of the cart.
And do you see that same person here in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Would you please point to him and describe what he's wearing? Who is it?
That man wearing the beard there.
This man?
Indicating Mr. Fatalahi.
Thank you.
Yes.
And would you tell us what you observed the defendant Fatalahi to do after that?
Yes, I had walked out to the patio department and I was speaking to the worker out there regarding the subject. And at that point, he observed me talking to this employee. He informed the other person that was with him. They both walked up to the front of the store then, abandoning the trash can containing, I believe it contained approximately $360 of cigarettes.
This other person who was with him, and did you get a good look at him?
Yes, I did.
And do you see that person in the courtroom today, sir?
Yes, oh, no, I don't.
And then what did you do?
I walked up to the front and observed Mr. Fatalahi walking up to the service desk and exchanging an empty trash can for one that he brought in the store. And at that point, he exited the store after getting a new trash can and he walked out into the parking lot.
All right.
And at any rate, as he walked out in the parking lot, he turned around and just stipulated with his middle finger to me.
Okay.
And I went out and asked him if there was some difficulty and why he was doing that. And he said, he laid down the trash can and said, look, if you want to look in this trash can and find $400 worth of cigarettes, why don't you try to take a look? And then I said, I know that trash can is empty because I saw you go up to the service desk and exchange it. Then at that point he said, at what time do you get off? And then I said 10, about 10:30 or so, and he said, fine, you'll be full of holes at 10 o'clock then. At any rate, apparently his partner was waiting in the van.
Objection, irrelevant.
Everything after apparently is stricken.
His partner was waiting in the van.
Objection again, Your Honor. Could the witness be admonished?
This does not involve your client, Mr. Santana. You may proceed.
There was a van there.
No, she may proceed. You have to wait for a question to be asked first.
I'm sorry, sir, I'll wait.
That's fine.
After you had this conversation with the defendant, did he do anything?
Well, he followed me back towards the van.
Which van is
There
that?
was a white van with Oklahoma plates parked in the fire lane in front of the store, and they entered the van.
Did you notice what kind of a van it was?
It was a white van. I really didn't make note of the model or the name. It had an Oklahoma plate on it, though. I wrote it down on my report. The license number on it, I wrote it down.
And then what did he do?
At that point, they left.
And what did you do?
I went inside and I informed the police of the threat that he made against me.
Now backtracking to that point in time where you first observed the defendant loading the cigarettes in his car, sir. I believe you testified that he had about 10 cartons or 20 cartons I can't really recall exactly what you said.
Well, I couldn't give the exact number, but I would say approximately 10 cartons.
Was there anything else in the cart?
He had some hangers in that middle area. It looked like that, I think.
When you observed the defendant, Fatolahi, loading the cigarettes into the cart, was he alone?
No, the other person was with him, this other person.
What made you think that the other person was with him?
Well, later on they exited together and they both drove away in the same van. But at the time he informed the other subject that I was an employee as I was standing in the patio and they both exited together.
I want to focus on particularly what happened from the point of time you observed him loading the cigarettes until he walked out of the store.
Okay.
Now, when did he stop loading cigarettes? Was it?
Upon their observation of my talking to the patio employee.
I object to that as it calls for speculation.
Could I have that last question and answer? The objection is overruled.
Thank you.
What did they do after Mr. Fatolahi stopped loading cigarettes? What did he do?
He proceeded to the front. There was another cart there that had an empty trash can in it.
How far from the front of the store was he?
He was in the rear of the store in the patio department. In terms of yardage, I would have to really see a plan on the floor, but I would estimate 150 yards to 200 yards.
Is there another point of exit in the store other than that which the defendant took?
Yes, the patio exit.
The patio exit?
Yes.
Where would that be in relation to where he was loading the cigarettes?
Well, he was standing in front of that exit. In essence, the patio has an exterior portion and an interior portion there. He was looking at the employee standing in the exterior portion of that department.
Did he do anything as he was walking out of the store?
Did I do anything?
Yes.
Upon exiting from the front?
Right.
He turned around and he flipped me off. That's it. That's about it. He did that then.
What did he do with the cart, with the shopping cart?
Oh, the cart containing, which cart? There was one containing an empty trash can and there was one that was full of cigarettes.
What did he do with the trash can full of cigarettes?
Abandoned it in the furniture department on his way to the front.
What did he do with the cart with the trash can in it?
With the trash can,
Yes.
went to the front and went up to the service desk and said, I would like to exchange this can for the one I brought in. He had brought in an empty one with him when he came in the store.
Now, Mr. Centeno, on August 29th, 1983, did you go to Ventura?
Yes, I did.
And would you please tell us why?
Objection, relevancy.
People,
Your Honor, it's relevant in establishing an MO in this case. The witness was called to Ventura, Your Honor, to identify the suspect that he had observed in the store through a photo lineup, and I anticipate that he will testify to the other occasions in which any similar transaction took place in various Kmart stores. It also bears on his identification of the witnesses on a future occasion.
is he a witness with respect to count 1 and 3?
Yes, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled.
Thank you. What was the purpose of that trip to Ventura?
The purpose of the trip to Ventura was to identify the two suspects that I had seen on that first occasion, and which I did. There were several other security personnel from Kmart's from the greater Los Angeles area, including Ventura, present at this photo lineup. All were there with the intent to identify a man that...
Objection, Your Honor, speculating as to the others.
Objection overruled. Everything with respect to the intent is stricken, yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I object to this line of questioning on a 352. It is more prejudicial than probative, Your Honor, and the people have not laid a foundation about the MO yet.
They have not asked any questions yet. Your objection is overruled at this time, Mr. Santana.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Centeno, calling your attention to the date of September the 18th, 1983, were you also employed as a security guard at the Kmart located at 5565 North Rosemead?
5665.
Thank you. And on that date, did you see the defendant, Mr. Fatolahi, in the Kmart?
Yes, I did.
And what were the circumstances surrounding that?
I observed the subject up in front of the Kmart by the cigarette area. I immediately recognized him and I noted that he had a shopping cart containing, I would say, over 20 cartons of cigarettes in the lower portion of the cart. He was pushing it, zigzagging in the front part of the aisles by the cigarette display. I also observed another subject with him.
I object to that, Your Honor. He did not answer the question put to him by the people.
I believe the question was, what did you observe? The objection is overruled.
Thank you.
What did you observe after you saw him zigzagging through the aisles?
He proceeded through the patio department, through the automotive department then.
All right,
We'll let you do.
I am defense attorney Clyde Small, S-M-A-L-L.
I'm second defense attorney, Mr. Halsey, Halse.
I am the witness.
I'm for the plaintiff, Bob Arns, A-R-N-S.
One of them
Yeah,
isn't
can you
on.
guys hear Melissa? Because it was a little
One's
light
not
on.
on.
It's turned on, but what do you want me to do?
No, the top one isn't on.
Oh, yeah, there's no green light. And I'll look at you for hours.
Okay, starts with me. Question by Mr. Small. Ready? Mr. Harmon, have you ever given a deposition before?
No, sir.
Well, just a few little things to keep in mind. One is the reporter is taking down every word you say here, and he can only take one person at a time. So we have to kind of control our tendency to both talk at once. I'll try to do the same.
Fine.
Second, bear in mind that the testimony may be used later on in court, and therefore, it's important to take your time. There's no hurry, you don't get any good marks for quick answers, and we're all willing to wait while you consider the question.
All right, sir, very good.
Mr. Harmon,
Before you get started, there seems to be some confusion amongst all the attorneys here, at least some of them. This is Mr. M.R. Harmon, H-A-R-M-A-N, and he is not Alex Harmon with an O. There are two different Harmons who coincidentally are property owners in the same subdivision.
I appreciate that clarification. I thought we were talking with Mr. Alex Harmon.
we took his deposition before.
I remember that now.
Okay. Now, Mr. Harmon, do you live on Drescher Tract Road?
Yes.
And did you live there at the time of the subject accident on February 28, 1982?
Yes, sir.
How long have you lived there?
Since January 1st, 1979,
Do you have a number on Drescher Tract Road?
107.
I'd ask that these photographs be marked respectfully as A, B, and C to his, can you make a Xerox copy of these to attach to the deposition as A, B, and C to Mr. Harmon's deposition?
Do you know then these photographs were taken?
They would have been, I think, about March of this year. Okay. Mr. Harmon, I hand you Exhibit A to your deposition. It is a photograph, and do you recognize generally what's depicted there?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
That is, well, just as it says, it is Braun Lane coming down the hill. And then this is a picture looking from the mailbox northward.
Where are we? Whose mailbox?
Mine,
On what road?
Drescher Track Road.
And do you know about how far it is from the intersection of Braun Lane and Drescher Tract Road in your house?
It's approximately 1,100 feet, 1,200 feet.
Okay, and do you know where Braun Lane leads generally?
It leads over to the PG&E Power Station 1, and then it goes down in below someplace.
That's all right. It goes west over towards the PG&E substation.
And I think you indicated a moment ago that the intersection of Braun Lane with Drescher Tract Road is somewhere around 1,200 feet away from your lot?
Yes, sir.
Did you keep...
He didn't say from his lot, he said from his house.
Additionally, I'm going to object. You are leading the witness.
Well, I can't. I'm examining him under 776.
I understand you are saying you are, but I'm making an objection for the record of leading the witness. I don't think this is proper under 776. I don't think this is under 776.
You can make an objection, but I'm party to a cross complaint here.
I understand that. I'm just objecting as to leading the witness. I may be incorrect. You may be incorrect. The judge will decide. Preserve it for the time of trial.
Do you remember the question?
Will you please?
How far away were you, according to your best estimate, from this car that you described when you first saw it?
Further objection calls for speculation, lack of foundation.
Can you answer the question?
Yes, sir.
How far?
I was approximately 1,200 feet away.
And did you keep the car under observations after you first noticed it?
Excuse me 1 second. Can I have a continuing objection?
No.
Fine, object, leading the witness.
Would you ask me that again, please?
Would you read it back, please?
Yes, sir.
And for how long?
Approximately 1,000 feet.
And were you able to form any judgment or estimate as to its speed during the time you observed it?
Object, calls for speculation, lack of foundation.
You can answer.
Don't pay any attention to their objections. They are fighting over.
Yes, I can answer that.
All right.
I feel it was going between 50 and 60 miles per hour.
And did it accelerate or decelerate during the time you had it under observation?
Not to my knowledge.
Did the vehicle overturn at any time?
Object, leading the witness.
Not to my knowledge. I didn't see it overturn.
All right. Did the vehicle come to a stop anywhere in the vicinity of your house?
Object, leading the witness.
Again, I didn't see it.
What was the vehicle doing when you turned your attention away from it after watching it go north on Drescher Tract Road?
Object, leading the witness, also misstates the evidence.
Also, it assumes facts not in evidence too, namely that he turned his attention away from it. To help you all out, I'll tell you, off the record.
Did you lose sight of the vehicle as it went north on Drescher Tract Road?
Yes, sir.
And why?
Due to 4 large oak trees sitting on the south side of my house.
Did you see the vehicle again after you lost sight of it behind the oak trees?
Yes, sir. It was turned over at the time that I saw it again.
And had it come to rest when you first saw it?
Yes, sir. When I saw it again, it had come to rest.
And where, with respect to your mailbox, did the vehicle come to rest?
Oh, south of my mailbox, across the road, and south of my mailbox.
On the west side of the road?
Yes, sir.
And about how far southerly from your mailbox?
I can't answer that.
Well, can you give us any meaningful estimate? Was it a short distance as 1 inch or as far as 100 yards, or was it somewhere in between?
I would say 25 steps.
That's single paces.
Yes, sir.
And just so we'll be together, is it when you say a step, are you indicating somewhere around a 30-inch step, 2 feet, or 3 feet, or what?
I would think I would think so. Just a normal person walking.
Which way was the front of the vehicle pointing if you observed?
Southbound.
We're talking about the time that it was traveling now, or at the time?
No, at the time it came to rest. The front of the vehicle was pointing south?
Yes, sir.
After it came to rest?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on the first occasion that you recall seeing it, what were the circumstances? Was it stopped or moving? Can you tell me?
No, sir. It was going southbound on Drescher Track Road.
Can you give me any estimate as to its speed on that first occasion?
Object, calls for speculation, lack of foundation.
Can you tell me how it's lacking foundational limits, just so your objection is preserved for the record?
We don't have any statements as to where he's located, where the car was, whether he's in a position to observe it properly, what angle he's looking at the car. We don't have any information as to what type of car it was, what color it was, etc.
I'm entitled to that if you're going to make an objection to the record. I'm entitled to know all the elements for the lack of foundation objection, so we can preserve this testimony.
Let me say this, I don't know whether you are entitled to it or not, but I just gave it to you. So if somebody wants to tell them why I'm objecting, I'll be glad to do it.
Gentlemen, could we get on with the deposition?
Do you recall the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you answer it?
Yes, sir. I think I can. I would say judging, he was traveling 35, 40 miles per hour.
And how about the second time you saw him? Can you recall the circumstances?
That was the second time.
Okay, the first time, were you able to make an estimate?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. The first time is earlier in the week, probably Monday. The second time is Friday.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I was going to ask for clarification.
Okay. What were the circumstances under which you saw the vehicle then, the first time around Monday, preceding the accident?
I saw the back of it is all.
And where was it with regard to your property that first time?
South of my property.
About how far away?
Oh, approximately 500 feet.
Were you able to make any estimate as to its speed on that first occasion?
No, sir.
And the second time you saw it, which would have been around Friday, I think, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Where were you with respect to the vehicle when you observed it?
I was standing between the house and my mailbox.
How far away was the vehicle when you first saw it?
Object, calls for speculation, lack of foundation.
Join.
Noted, please answer.
Approximately 200 feet when I first seen it.
And which way from you?
It was north of me.
And how long did you keep it under observation?
Just until it passed, which is approximately 200 feet.
Same objection.
That's all I have at this time.
No questions questions at this time.
Okay, looks like it's come around to me, sir.
All right.
My name is Bob Arns, sir. I represent the gentleman who was injured in an automobile accident.
I see, all right.
Nice to meet you, sir. First item that I'd like to show you, which I'm going to mark as Plaintiff's Exhibit 1, is a tract map of the Drescher Tract property. First of all, we have to have the court reporter mark that, sir.
I'm sorry?
I might inquire, we've been splitting the original on this transcript. Do you want to continue on these transcripts?
Fine with me.
Me too.
Okay,
Has everyone looked at this?
I think so.
Maybe while that map is being passed around, I can ask some other foundational questions.
Okay.
Would you give me a date of birth?
November 26, 1917.
You said you moved to the subject property in January of 1979 in a cabin?
Yes, sir?
Did you build that cabin yourself?
Yes, sir?
Is that cabin still on the property?
Yes, sir?
And then, when did you start construction of the other home on the property?
Approximately March 1979.
How big of a parcel do you have, sir?
I have 5 acres.
How many square feet is your cabin?
The cabin is approximately 200 square feet.
How about your house?
It's 860.
All right, now we have a copy of a plot map here. Can you tell me whether or not your parcel of land is distinguished on that plot map?
Yes, sir.
I don't want you to guess or speculate. If you can tell him, do so. If you can't, tell him that as well.
Yeah, I can tell.
All right, is it shown there, sir?
Yes, sir.
Would you be kind enough to draw an arrow to your plot? I've got a pen here if you want to use this one and draw an arrow. First of all, just show me where it is.
Right here.
Could we have a copy of that as an exhibit to this deposition?
Already marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 1.
Oh, I guess I missed that, thank you.
Just draw an arrow from there. Beneath that arrow, would you print your name, please?
Yes.
And would you know where Alex Harmon lives?
Yes, sir.
By the way, are you in any relation to Mr. Harmon?
No, sir. I never met the man until I moved up here.
Is Mr. Harmon's plot of land depicted there?
Yes, sir.
Would you be kind enough to draw an arrow to that and just put Alex Harmon underneath that arrow?
Yes, sir.
By the way, who is the landowner beneath you, or who was the landowner beneath you at the time of this accident in February of 1982?
I have no knowledge, sir.
What do you mean beneath him? You mean to the south?
Yes.
I have no knowledge.
Sir, can you designate just approximately where your cabin is located on your plot of land?
Yes, the house is.
He didn't ask you for the house, he asked you for the cabin.
Let's do the cabin first.
Okay, right there.
You have drawn a box.
Uh-huh.
Let's draw an arrow from that box all the way down. You ended up right there with where the other one is. Let's do it this way. Let's put cabin.
Okay.
Now, would you draw where your barn is?
Oh, that's over here.
Let's draw an arrow from there and put barn. And where is your house?
It's over here.
Now, where were you when your attention was first drawn to the subject vehicle on the day of the accident?
East of the house.
I thought you said you were between the house and barn.
He said he was walking from the house to the barn.
Walking from the barn to the house. That's what they like.
Okay, I am defense attorney Ms. Ashurst.
Excuse us.
Ashurst.
I am second defense attorney, Mr. Bob Turner, Turner.
I am the witness.
I'm for the plaintiff, Mr. Bradley Stam, Stam.
All right, we are starting off with question by me, defense attorney. Ready? What kind of symptoms were you experiencing at 9 o'clock that night, or approximately 9 o'clock when your husband came home?
Just, I would say, mild pain in the general area that I have described because it didn't become intense until the next day.
This would be June 27th.
Yes, and that is when I think I saw Dr. Deere.
Is that the only symptom you had?
Yes, I think so.
When did you see Dr. Deere?
What time of day?
No, was it on the 27th?
Yes, I think. Wasn't it? It was on a Friday.
What symptoms did you complain of to Dr. Deere?
I am going to object to that. Communications between her and her doctors are privileged, and I will instruct her not to.
What symptoms were you experiencing when you went to see Dr. Deere?
Those which I have described, only as I say it was more extensive and it hadn't spread. It seemed localized. But I told him what had happened and he...
Carolyn, communications between your doctor and yourself are privileged, and I advise you not to testify as to what you told your doctor or what he told you.
Go ahead. You are describing to me the symptoms that you were experiencing that led you to see Dr. Deere. Was it just this pain in your arm that sent you there?
I'd prefer not to answer that question then.
Unless your attorney wants to object for the record, you really don't have any choice.
Well, I will say that I would just be repeating myself.
That's fine.
Well, that the pain had intensified, but as I say, it was localized. It hadn't spread much really, but it hurt.
Was Dr. Deere your regular doctor?
No, he had been treating me for some time, but he is an osteopath. My regular family doctor, or at that time, was Dr. Katzman.
Was who?
Dr. Katsman.
All right. On June 27th, when you went to see Dr. Deere,
And that's deer, as in the animal.
were you experiencing any symptoms other than the pain in the arm?
With relation to the accident,
Period.
What is the relevancy of that? I mean, if she had a headache that day or had indigestion,
There seems to be an awful lot of results from this accident, and it's also clear that she was experiencing some other physical problems that are in no way related to this accident, and I think it's relevant for us to know what she was being treated for at the time of the accident, and how many of the symptoms she now experiences may be due to these other troubles, this other trouble she was having. We are entitled to know.
well, I think you are entitled to ask her what symptoms she feels are attributable to the accident. I don't know that there is any reason.
I don't think her opinion of whether they are attributable to the accident or not is irrelevant. She is complaining of a lot of symptoms, and we are entitled to know what they stem from.
Well, if she doesn't believe that there are other symptoms which she has not testified to yet, and she doesn't think that they are attributable to the accident, I don't see how they are relevant to this matter.
Those symptoms that she was complaining of at that time may have been the source of the thing that she is complaining about now and is now alleging to be a result of the accident. We are entitled to know the status of her physical condition at the time of the accident.
Well, for the record, I will say that unless your questions are very specific, I'm going to object to them because I think that
You can preserve your objections on the record. That's fine.
I understand that, but also when you are dealing with a person's health, you are dealing with something which is a confidential matter unless it's relevant to this suit. I think that an objection on the basis of relevance is more important in this situation than it is when you are dealing with things that aren't of a confidential nature.
I will insist on having answers to the questions. You, of course, can preserve your record with objections. If you want to instruct the witness not to answer these kinds of questions, we can just go up now and get a ruling.
Well, we may have to do that. You can go ahead and ask your questions, but I encourage you to be as specific as possible.
At the time, June 27th, when you went to see Dr. Deere, you were experiencing one symptom, which was pain in your arm. Were you experiencing any other symptoms which would lead you to see a doctor?
no.
Was Dr. Deere treating you for another condition as of June 1975?
You mean on that date? I'm not sure I understand the questions.
Were you seeing Dr. Deere for another condition at that point in time? The month of June 1975, May, June, July?
Yes.
What was that condition?
That is a nebulous thing. It has to do with a spur in my back
Can you tell me what that is?
or my neck.
What that condition is?
I'm told it's a common thing which varies with those who have it, its size, but that what it amounts to is an extra vertebra.
What are the symptoms associated with that you experience?
Well, it's pain in that area, particularly if you are tense.
Is it at the base of your neck that you are pointing to now?
Yes.
Does the pain extend beyond that area?
Sometimes.
Where does it extend to?
Well, no it doesn't. Yes and no. Sometimes just in that general area it tightens and is very painful. Other times I am without pain at all. It depends.
Has it, to the best of your knowledge, at any rate, ever produced pain in your arm?
No.
What treatment did Dr. Deere prescribe for you on June 27th?
I'm going to object to that.
Are you instructing the witness not to answer?
It's a communication between the doctor and his patient, and I'm going to object that it is privileged.
We are entitled to investigate this woman's physical condition. She has put it in issue. She has chosen to allege that these things occurred and she is suffering from them, suffered and is suffering from them.
Regardless of the fact that you are permitted to inquire as to her physical condition, you are not entitled to inquire as to communications between the doctor and his patient unless we waive that privilege, which we have not done. So I will advise her not to answer any questions.
So you are instructing the witness not to answer?
I will advise her not to answer any questions that are designed to elicit any information between the doctor and his patient.
As a result of your visit with Dr. Deer on June 27, did you commence any treatment? Did you take any medication, start any exercises?
That's rather a broad question. Do you mean with relation to this new? No, I would have to say no, a qualified no.
When did you next see a doctor with regard to the symptoms in your arm?
Oh dear, I don't know.
Did the symptoms go away after you saw Dr. Deer?
No, they have never gone away, but I really don't remember.
If it will help, Jackie, I think in our answers to interrogatories, we indicated a number of days when she saw Dr. Deer.
Well, I want to know what she remembers. She said in the interrogatory she wasn't sure, too.
You can inquire. I was just saying that information has been provided to you.
Did you see any other doctors in regard to the symptoms in your arm?
Yes.
Who?
Do you mean at a specific time?
After the accident?
Yes, I've seen, I wish I could remember, I should. I saw a doctor in the orthopedics at University Hospital, let's see, 3 times I believe.
Do you recall his name?
As I say, I do not. I believe it's Matson, M-A-T-S-O-N, but I'm not certain. I should be, but I'm not.
What were the symptoms you were experiencing that led you to see Dr. Matson, if that is in fact his name?
They were generally the same. It seemed to involve my hand and my elbow and my shoulder. Just my whole arm was just painful.
How long after the accident did this pain spread beyond the area of the upper right arm?
Let's see, June, it was a slow process, I would say. I mean, it was intense at first the next day compared to the day it happened. However, it did not intensify further until, maybe August, early August, and continued that way. It just got worse. It just periodically.
This is still just your upper right arm?
No, it's my hand now. I mean, the pain, yes, is still from my whole arm, but my right hand now is practically useless.
Do you know what causes that?
I've subsequently learned, well, my own doctor, however, said it was from the accident, but mentioned it, and he referred me to a Dr. Silverman at Providence Hospital, and I don't know his capacity. I have his report with me if you care to see it. I have seen Dr. Kropp, and he took tests. Dr. Silverman took tests to determine specifically where there was damage, if any, and there was a battery of tests conducted in one day over the period of about 90 minutes, and he determined that he sent...
Carolyn, I will again advise you not to testify as to communications between your doctor and yourself.
I will repeat the question. Do you know what causes the symptoms you are complaining of in your right arm?
You are asking if she knows of her own knowledge?
He's asking if she knows by any means whatsoever.
Well, to the extent that your knowledge is only as a result of communications from one of your doctors, I would advise you not to answer.
Well, I must say, I feel that this is totally unfamiliar to me, and I have never had problems with my hand or pain until this accident. And my activities have not changed, so that I have added something that may have contributed to this develop.
You may recall that in your answers to interrogatories, you have listed injuries that you have had prior to this injury. Are there any injuries that you can remember now that you did not include in those answers?
Oh, heavens, no.
You mentioned a head injury, broken bone in your foot, and broken finger twice. Are there any others?
No.
Now, you have mentioned this problem with your neck. I gather that's not an injury. What is that?
It's apparently genetic.
Do you have any other symptoms that would indicate some problem, whether genetic or due to an injury?
No.
You indicated that at the time of the accident, you were taking certain medications and drugs. Do you recall what those were?
I don't. I should, but I don't.
Let's go off the record for a minute. What are the symptoms you experience now that you attribute to the accident?
It's pain.
Where?
In my right hand, my thumb and forefinger, and my wrist.
Your right wrist?
Yes, and my elbow, and frequently it seems to affect the other 3 fingers, but generally it is in that location.
Does your upper right arm hurt at all?
Occasionally.
Are you undergoing treatment for those symptoms now?
No.
When did you stop being treated for those symptoms?
Could I ask for a clarification? When you ask for treatment, do you mean she is no longer seeing a doctor or she is not taking medication?
Any treatment at all, I want her to tell me.
So you include if she is seeing doctors?
Sure.
Oh, well then, I have seen this previous week 2 doctors at least. Robert J. Kropp, K-R-O-P-P, who is a, quote, hand man. He deals specifically with treating hands. Surgeon. And Dr. Sata, William, or is it Robert?
William.
So it's William Sata, who is a neurologist.
This is specifically for the symptoms in your arm and hand.
Yes, yes.
And are you seeing any other doctors at this point in time?
No.
Do you plan to see Dr. Kropp again?
Yes, I do.
Do you plan to see Dr. Sada again?
Possibly.
And prior to June 26, 1975, did you ever experience pain in your right hand,
No. Heavens.
your right wrist,
No.
your elbow,
No.
your arm?
No.
All of the symptoms you have described are symptoms you attribute to the June 26 accident. Is that correct?
Personally, yes.
Do you know of any other physical condition which you may have that might result in those symptoms?
No.
You were asked to bring with you today certain documents and records. Did you bring any of those with you?
Jackie, I served on you this morning objections to your subpoena.
I am simply asking if she brought any of them with her. The subpoena was properly served.
The subpoena was not properly served and delivered.
You may answer the question.
No, other than Dr. Silverman's report.
May I see Dr. Silverman's report?
I will advise you not to show her Dr. Silverman's report. It is privileged.
Do you have any plans for employment in the future?
No, not particularly. I mean, I am considering it. I have considered it.
Which one are we reading? The one on the top?
The 1988 May CSR.
All right. I am defense attorney, Mr. Parker, Parker.
I'm the court. I am the witness.
I'm for the plaintiff, Mr. Simmons, SIMMONS.
There, that pencil down there. Don't get her started.
Yeah, don't get it done.
Okay, starts with me. Ready? You've identified this as the location where you were laying.
Correct.
Now, the bushes that are there are oleander bushes, is that correct?
I don't know what they're called.
About how tall are they?
I don't really know how tall they are.
Do you remember about how tall they were when the incident occurred?
There was a lot of straggly brush and bigger bushes. I don't know how tall they were.
Remember telling me they were over 6 feet tall?
They're a few feet high, but the area is considerably different now. It's been re-landscaped, so I don't know.
In other words, are you saying that it's laid out differently now than the way it was then?
No, a lot of brush has been cleared away, but there are still bushes there.
Or remember testifying that the items that were there on that occasion were strewn haphazardly?
Yes, some were tall, some were smaller.
Okay, do you remember testifying saying your head was near one of the bushes?
Yes.
So my question is, you wrote X2 and it doesn't appear to be near any one of those bushes that are marked on that diagram.
May I also say I don't believe the drawing is to scale?
Why don't you indicate with an orange pin on that diagram where you believe the bushes were located?
If you know.
I'm not certain exactly which bush, but there was definitely a bush by my head. Is that what you're asking?
What I'm asking you to do is explain exactly where you were in relation to the bushes, because you remember your head being near a bush.
That's correct.
You can alter the bushes on the diagram if necessary. You're not restricted to that. You can leave your X2 where it is and put a bush where it was in relation to your head.
Draw another bush on there?
Certainly, if you believe it would be more accurately indicate where you actually were.
Okay, this is really more like where I was, but there was more brush in here. For example, there were my knees lying down here. This would be a bush approximately in this area. Is that clear?
Yes, as I understand what you're telling me, Miss Andrews, is the fact you don't believe the drawing is an accurate depiction of the location where you were. Is that correct?
I believe you have to call in an artist probably to completely depict it. It's very close
But you think the bushes are further back?
with some extra bushes.
You recall the bushes being further back from the road?
No, I believe where the bushes are is accurate, but as I stated before, what I meant was there was much more brush in the area and dry weeds as opposed to nice landscaping. That has been cleared away. It isn't illustrated on this drawing.
As I understand it, you were doing everything possible that you could in order to push this person off you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And during the time you were on the ground, there wasn't any fondling or anything of that nature going on with any part of your body other than your wrists and your hair. Would that be accurate?
And also my shoulders.
Your shoulders?
That's correct.
Now, the injuries you sustained were to your knees?
The scrapes, you mean?
Yes.
Definitely.
That's all?
My neck was also sore for several days. My body was sore.
But you didn't have any obvious bruises from any punch marks or anything of that nature?
No punching.
There was no punching at all?
There was no punching.
Now, you didn't see any weapon, did you?
No.
Do you recall this person saying anything to you about his physical condition?
No.
You don't recall him ever saying that he had been hurt by you?
No.
In reality, during this whole whole time you were terrified, weren't you?
Yes.
You were frightened?
Yes.
You were hostile?
I was aggressive to get away.
You were aggressive enough to roll up the window?
Definitely.
Across the street from this area, is there a place you went to?
Yes.
Where's that?
I went to a woman's house.
You made a telephone call from there?
Yes, I dialed 911.
Now that's when Officer Walker came out and talked with you.
Correct.
And at that time you also met a Mr. Howard, didn't you?
That's correct.
He was the black gentleman that happened along?
Yes.
You were talking with him with regard to this incident?
That night?
Yes.
No. Well, the officer was taking a report. Is that what you were questioning?
Uh-huh.
The officer took a report from him and also one from me.
Were you there when he gave his report?
I wasn't actually listening because the woman let me stay inside.
And so you didn't personally hear his statement?
I don't believe so.
Was he present when you gave your report?
I don't remember him being there.
Have you spoken with him since then?
I just remember that I gave my report at the police department.
Have you talked to Mr. Howard since then?
Objection, that is privileged.
Overruled, you may answer.
I have seen him.
Have you discussed this?
No, I haven't discussed anything.
You have not discussed the incident at all?
Never.
Can I have a moment, Your Honor?
You may.
While you were on the ground, I believe you previously testified that your knees were spread apart by his knee, is that correct?
Correct.
And both hands were being held?
That's correct.
Essentially, you were just pinned to the ground, is that correct?
I was pinned, yes.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Miss Andrews, as you were driving down the number 10 freeway and you noticed your car stall, did it stop completely at that point in terms of the engine running?
It stalled, yes.
Did you select this particular location, in other words, power your car over to the side of the freeway, or did your automobile just happen to come to reset after your momentum stopped?
I coasted as far as I possibly could, and when I went no farther, I pulled over and set the brake.
During the incident alongside your car, where at various times you were in a bit of conversation with the defendant, was he standing in one of the freeway lanes beside your car, if I may approach, as opposed to the median strip of the freeway?
No, he was in the emergency lane.
So he was in the emergency lane along with your car?
Right.
Do you recall that evening whether at any time alongside your car the defendant was in one of the traffic lanes of the freeway as opposed to the emergency lane?
No.
Was there ever an occasion, to the best of your recollection, where you were in one of the traffic lanes of the freeway as opposed to that emergency lane?
No.
Do you remember there being what is known as a white strip or fog line separating the traffic lane from the shoulder area?
Right, I know.
I did not hear that answer. Could Miss Andrews repeat that a little louder, please, Your Honor?
Miss Andrews, would you please repeat that last answer and speak a little louder so Mr. Parker and the jury can hear you?
Right, I know.
Was there ever an occasion where either yourself or the defendant crossed over that fog line and got into the traffic?
No, I ran alongside it. I was running beside it, but was never actually in the lanes.
Was there ever a car in the lane closest to that fog line coming in your direction
No,
during this particular period of time?
no.
You had a thought in your mind, I gather from your testimony, and that was a reaction to the defendant's first question to you, words to the effect, "What's wrong?" Do you recall that thought?
What's wrong with my car?
Yes, you had a reaction to that question, did you not?
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant.
Overruled, you may continue, Miss Andrews.
Yes.
You thought it was a stupid question?
I thought it was a stupid question.
You did not tell him that, did you?
No, I thought it.
During Mr. Parker's questioning of you, he asked whether or not your memory about this incident is clearer today than it was the morning after when you wrote your statement. Is that accurate?
He had asked me that, yes.
I believe your answer was that you were not positive.
Correct, I'm not really certain. Can I explain my meaning in more detail?
That was my next question. Do you have an idea why you were not sure about that, Miss Andrews?
Well, the reason is because sometimes you recall certain details at one time and then later you remember other details. Not that you have forgotten it, but you don't remember every detail at one time, whereas later you'll remember it.
Have you ever had that precise experience with respect to this case?
Yes.
Now, there have been things occur to you since you wrote this statement?
Yes, can I explain also what I mean by that?
Certainly.
I didn't write that as an organized memorandum. I only wrote that for myself to dispel energy of the incident. Do you understand what I mean?
Your Honor, I have an item in my hand that is entitled Steno Notes. I would ask this be marked as People's 2 for identification.
It may be so marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach the witness? Miss Andrews, I would like you to look at this item, which I will be asking the court stenographer to mark in the bottom right-hand corner as People's number 2. Tell me if you recognize that item.
Yes, sir, I recognize it.
What is it?
It is a notepad of mine. I write down assignments at school.
Inside there are several sheets of paper. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You testified about a statement that you wrote concerning the details of this incident. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that the statement you wrote?
Yes, it is.
When did you write that?
Several hours after the incident in the morning.
Had you been up all night that night?
Definitely, yes, I was.
By the time you finished at the police station, do you remember what time it was approximately?
I don't remember what time it was when I arrived at the police station. It was just mid-morning, not really positive what time it was.
Let me rephrase the question. Was it still dark when you arrived at the police station in Rolling Hills?
Certainly it was still dark.
And do you remember whether it was light or dark when you left the police station at Rolling Hills?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled, you may continue.
It was dark.
Still dark. Do you have any idea approximately what time you arrived at your residence in North Highlands that day?
I think it was about 5 in the morning. It was just beginning to get light.
Recalling the statement that you wrote, did you write it immediately when you got home, or did you go to bed right away?
No, even though I was very tired and I attempted to sleep for a little bit, I couldn't. Finally, about daytime, I began writing this story.
When you wrote this document, did you have the idea that you were going to write each and every little detail?
No, that wasn't the reason for writing.
Why did you write it?
Sometimes I write things down it helps work things out sometimes when you write something down.
Are you familiar with the term catharsis?
Yes, sir.
Could the witness repeat that, please, Your Honor? I did not hear that answer.
Miss Andrews, would you please repeat your last answer a little louder, possibly?
Yes, I am.
A way to get things out of your system?
Catharsis, at point of climax or emotional change.
Did you regard this as kind of a catharsis for yourself?
Yes, I often do this. I often write about events.
When you wrote this narrative, did you ever think it would be utilized in court?
Certainly not at that point.
When you wrote this statement, did you ever believe that you would call upon it to refresh your memory about what happened that night?
Definitely not.
Have you had occasion to read it again since then?
Actually, I've read it since then, but not for a long time. I thought it was lost or thrown away.
To the extent it reports upon what you did or what happened to you that night, is it a fairly accurate representation of what happened?
It's part of it. Pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate.
There's a point in this statement, I take it, where you stopped writing about the incident. Is that true?
That's true.
Where does your report about the incident stop?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled, this particular question has not been asked, counsel.
I believe it stops right at the point where he grabbed me and started to take me to the side of the freeway.
Okay.